Float can work.
All right, well, I think we made it to
Let me
10.
just move this sign-in sheet over here. Let's go let people sit down and sign in after they pick.
Wow.
Let me know when you're ready, Tasia.
Wait, I am ready.
Good morning and welcome to the Eidelweiss hearing for the proposed changes to the highway and parking ordinance. It's 10:01 a.m. and I'll make a motion that we call the meeting to order.
Second.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0, we call the meeting to order. And we have one person attending who thinks it's pretty funny.
Well, we should say that this meeting was advertised how many days ago? The
It was in
requirement is
paper 10 days
the
ago,
Conway Daily Sun,
and it has been posted for 10 days.
posted on our website, on our bulletin board. Okay,
Both bulletin boards, the one out in front of the office as well as the one at Hotwell.
Hotwell,
Yeah.
okay. So there was adequate notice.
Yes.
10 days prior to this meeting for anybody who was paying attention.
And it is the 13th rainy Saturday in a row for historical records that we had the hearing, so it wasn't like there was more to do outside,
Yeah.
even though it's not raining right now. So, any issues with the parking ordinance changes? Anything you'd like to discuss?
That can come from us too, right?
I want to simply run through it. The purpose is the same, for safety and protection of personnel and plowing and vehicles on the roads and people walking and dogs and things of that nature. And there's the road regulations, and there's a couple of changes in here. The first one is that in 3.2, we're changing the word suggested to in place, and for the lower speed limits. On 3.3, the sign at the entrance of Eidelweiss says commercial vehicles, the gross vehicle weight is 10, and the current ordinance says 13. So it's been suggested, or we're changing it to the 10 so that it agrees with the historical sign that has been there. And the spring is still 5 ton.
I have a question on the 3.2.
Okay?
15 miles per hour from Eidelweiss Drive into the intersection around Little Peacock onto Little League. I thought it was all 20, but
Okay, yeah, I think we need to state that we recently changed VDOE-wise around the entire village. It's gonna be 20 miles per hour.
Right.
But because that loop is a dangerous, that swing around by Boulder Beach is hairy, that needs to be at a lower speed limit, and that's why it's at 15.
okay, you're gonna put up the appropriate signs?
I think they've always been up.
I think,
There's yellow signs.
yes, there are yellow signs, and when we put the speed bumps in as well, that also makes everything
Yeah.
slower.
Right.
You have to be slower to get over that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was reading that correctly.
Okay?
Next page.
In section 3.7 where it talks about the speed bumps, it doesn't say when we put them in. And it's basically when the school buses stop running for the summer, and we take them back out when the school buses start running again in September.
So I think
So
we
it
should
could
add
say
that.
this summer.
Well, when school buses are not running during the summer holidays for schools.
And
Without putting specific dates, because that's gonna vary a little bit year to year.
I would just say during the summer months, because they do run buses in the summertime for summer programs. So
Okay, all right. So don't get schools in there, just say
just say in the summer months.
summer months.
Okay, so speed bumps will be installed for the summer months.
Yeah, we'll put for summer months right after that. Just insert it in there. Yeah.
But-
Good thing we had this hearing.
But from a, a governance point of view, that would be up to the board when we put, like, we may say at the next meeting, which is June, today is the 14th, so the next meeting is this upcoming Wednesday. We may say we're gonna put those speed bumps in that week, if we wanna, or the following week.
What has been happening is the DBW knows when the school buses stop running and they just put them in.
Okay, so they just do it without our
Yep.
having,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, so by adding it, for the summer months, we'll cover it.
Okay, I'm good with that. Those guys are in tune with what's going on in town, so.
And Jeff has kids in school.
Right. All right.
Okay, and again, changing in that same section, changing suggested to requiring the 5 mile an hour around the speed bumps.
Right, so that area is 15 miles per hour at all times of year, except when the speed bumps are out, at which time we lower it to 5 miles per hour until you pass the final speed bump in whatever direction you're going.
Yes.
Okay?
Alright. You okay with that part? Okay, so section 4 is the parking regulations. And there's some significant changes to this one. The biggest change is that we're restricting parking on the roads. It had previously said November 1st to April 1st, and we're striking that so that it's at any time, so that there will be no parking along the sides of the roads. And then there's some exceptions. If somebody's building a house and there's not enough room in the driveway for the construction vehicles, then they can park on the street during business hours while they're actually working. When the district has something happening, whether it be the highway crew or the water crew, they're gonna be allowed to park on the street while they're doing whatever it is they need to do for their, to fix the emergency. And Portage Shore Beach is a change where we are going to allow parking, how is this worded? Between Memorial Day and September 30th along right near the cul-de-sac. People will be allowed so that they can go in and get their boats and spend their day on the water.
And the reason being is because there is no parking lot, unlike all the other beaches, for Portage Shore Beach. The road is the only place a car can park to access the beach if they're coming in a car.
Right.
So we had to allow for that.
Yeah. Okay. Then 2.3 didn't, or 4.3, 2 didn't get changed. 2.3, we're limiting the use of the Hotwell parking lot to a maximum of 4 days. I would like to add, after the maximum of 4 days, no staying in the vehicle, trailer, or RV while parked.
So it's not a campground, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
I agree with that. I've never seen that, but I'm sure it's happened.
Oh, I've seen people staying in RV a couple of times,
Okay.
so. You ready for page 3?
Oh, wait a minute. I think we need to discuss, let's see, I think that's in 4.5. Look,
That is on next page.
okay, yeah, okay, let's go to the next page then.
Where are we?
That was my question.
4.5 on page 3.
Okay, so someone has parked their car for 4 days and then moves it. Then are we saying that we don't want to see that car again for another 90 days?
Yeah, mostly that will be people that leave trailers and other recreational vehicles and things that they can't bring it back. And that's something that has been used against the district in the past. That when we had the permit situation where there was a school of thought that said, I did my 30 days, I had my permit, I removed my RV or whatever it was for 24 hours, and now my 30 days starts again.
That would only happen if you had another permit covering the next 30 days. Okay.
We don't give out permits anymore.
We have,
But
we don't
we're
do-
not
there's-
doing
I get that,
permits.
we have no permits anymore.
Right.
I get that, I get that.
So that's why,
Right, so it's gotta be clear that you can't just after 4 days remove your car for a day and then come back and the 4 days restarts.
correct,
It's not gonna happen.
right.
All right.
Or at least that's the intent. Okay, in 4.7, we removed the part about the notification or the permit. The enforcement is the same. We added the Board of Commissioners and their agents, because that had been removed to the prior, the last update had removed that line, so we're putting that back in. The penalties in section 6,
I
in,
would like to address 6.3 and 6.4 and maybe make it a single, like 6.3. In other words, I think steel-tracked vehicles should have the exact same fines that overweight trucks have. So in other words, $500 for the first offense and a $1,000 for any subsequent offense.
I'm okay with that.
So in other words, the fine for using steel-tracked vehicles or overweight trucks on VDOE roads shall be $500 for the first offense with a fine of $1,000 on any subsequent offense. In my mind, steel-tracked vehicles are probably even more destructive than overweight trucks, based on what I know. But we don't want, they both damage our roads.
Yes,
So I think we just make it one Those two types of vehicles with the exact same fines.
they'll have the same, but I think we need to keep them separate.
Okay, so 6.3 shall
We'll,
then read, the fine for using steel track vehicles on VDOE roads shall be $500 for the first offense, with a fine of $1,000 for any subsequent offense. So it reads identically to 6.4, other than it's pointing out that it's steel tracked vehicles. Okay,
I agree with that.
that works with me.
Then on the last page, if there's anything else on the last one, on page 3? No? Okay. The last page shows the amendments. I added back in the Board of Commissioners will amend the ordinance as the need arises, which is the standard wording. Every time an ordinance is updated, it changes the prior ordinance in its entirety, so that's just getting stricken. There is no monetary allocation. And we'll be adding, we added back in the historical changes of the ordinance that do not exist or do not show at the end of the current ordinance. And the new one the final line for that will show that it's revised following a public hearing on June 14th, 2025.
So we'll vote the changes in next Wednesday, the 18th,
Yes,
at a regular meeting.
yes, at a regular meeting.
Any idea why all this was highlighted, all these old dates?
Because the existing ordinance, as it shows on the website,
Didn't have it?
didn't have any of that information. It had been removed when it was put together
Sure.
by somebody that was not the Board of Commissioners.
Any further comments?
Good job, everybody.
So once it gets approved at the next board meeting on Wednesday, the 18th, then when does it go into effect? That day?
Yes, and things we'll need to do is we will remove the existing signs around the Hotwell parking lot and come up with wording for new signs as the new ordinance will show.
Right.
Because right now, the signs that are there reference actually not the current ordinance, but the one prior to that.
Right.
The
And also the police like signs that
sign
reflect
has
what
to
the
agree with
current
the ordinance,
ordinance
yes.
says.
Yes,
Because if they see that, they can take action. If not, then it becomes a little questionable.
right.
You gonna let the chief review this?
Yes.
Any other comments? Make a motion to close the hearing at 10:20.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's it.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Tasha.